The Grand Assembly Hall had never been this quiet. Daniel Carter stood near the back of the massive chamber, watching delegates from dozens of alien species whisper to each other in nervous voices. He had been part of humanity's diplomatic team for 3 years now, but he had never seen anything like this. "Something is wrong," Katie Lawson said beside him. She was the team's language expert, and she had been listening to the conversations around them. "They keep saying a name, Vathri." Daniel looked at the aliens near them. A tall, thin creature with blue skin was shaking so badly that its ceremonial robes rustled. 2 small beings with large black eyes were holding each other's hands. Even the proud warriors from the Kelzer Empire, known for their fearlessness in battle, looked pale and uncertain. "Who is Vathri?" Daniel asked. Before Katie could answer, a figure approached them. It was Ambassador Zelric, a Torvani diplomat they had worked with before. The Torvani were known for their calm nature, but Zelric's forearms were trembling as he spoke. "You should leave," Zelric said quietly. "Stake your delegation and go back to your ship. There is still time." "Leave?" Daniel frowned. "The summit just started. We came here to discuss trade agreements." Zelric made a sound that might have been a bitter laugh. "There will be no trade discussions today. Queen Vathri is coming, the Queen of the Solani Empire." Katie's eyes went wide. Daniel had heard stories about the Solani, but they were mostly legends. An ancient empire that controlled hundreds of star systems. A queen who had lived for 600 years. Ships that could destroy planets. "I thought the Solani kept to themselves," Daniel said. "They haven't attended a galactic assembly meeting in centuries." 300 cycles, Zelric confirmed. The last time the Queen appeared in public, 2 delegations offended her. She ordered her fleet to destroy their moons. Billions died. He gripped Daniel's arm with one of his hands. "She's not coming here for trade talks, human. Something has made her desperate, and a desperate Vathri is more dangerous than anything you can imagine." Daniel looked around the hall. More delegations were leaving now, their aides rushing to gather belongings and documents. The great chamber, designed to hold representatives from 100 worlds, was emptying fast. "We should at least hear what she has to say," Daniel said. Zelric stared at him. "You do not understand. When the Queen speaks, she does not ask. She demands. And those who do not give her what she wants, she destroys." Commander Ben Holt pushed through the crowd to reach them. He was the head of their security team, a solid man with gray hair and steady hands. "Carter, Lawson, we need to talk. I just got word from our ship. Something massive just came out of hyperspace. The sensors say it is 3 miles long." "The Queen's flagship?" Zelric whispered. "She is already here." Through the tall windows of the assembly hall, Daniel could see it now. A shadow was falling over the station, blocking out the light from the nearby star. The ship was enormous, covered in sharp angles and glowing lines of purple energy. It looked less like a vessel and more like a weapon given form. "My people are leaving," Zelric said. "I suggest you do the same. Humanity is new to the galaxy. You do not want to be caught in the Queen's anger." He hurried away, his forearms wrapped around himself like he was trying to hold himself together, but Katie moved closer to Daniel. "He might be right. We have only been part of the galactic community for 80 years. We do not have the ships or the weapons to stand against the Solani. We are not here to fight anyone," Daniel said. "We are here to listen and talk. That is what diplomats do." Commander Holt shook his head. "This is not a normal diplomatic situation. I have been reading the reports on my tablet. The Solani have not lost a war in 4,000 years. Their technology is beyond anything we have seen. One of their small patrol ships could probably destroy our entire fleet. Then we definitely should not run away," Daniel said. Running might look like an insult. And you heard what Zelric said about insults. The lights in the hall flickered. A deep sound filled the air, so low that Daniel felt it in his chest more than heard it with his ears. The remaining delegates fell silent. Even the bravest among them seemed to shrink as they looked toward the great doors at the front of the chamber. High Counselor Dran, the leader of the Galactic Assembly, rose from his seat on the central platform. He was an old Threllan. His green scales faded with age, but his voice was steady as he spoke. The Assembly recognizes the arrival of Her Eternal Majesty, Queen Vithari of the Solani Empire. We welcome her to these halls of peace and cooperation. The doors began to open. They were massive things, 50 feet tall, and made of metal that had been forged in the heart of a dying star. They moved slowly, and with each inch they opened, the pressure in the room seemed to increase. Daniel's ears popped. Kitty grabbed his arm. A light appeared in the doorway. It was purple and cold, and it seemed to push back against the warm lights of the assembly hall. Through that light, a shape began to form, tall, armored, moving with a grace that seemed impossible for something so large. Daniel had faced many difficult things in his life. He had served as a medic in 3 human conflicts, holding dying soldiers and telling them lies about how everything would be okay. He had walked through battlefields covered in blood and fire. He had learned to keep his fear locked away in a small box inside his chest. But as Queen Vithari stepped into the light, he felt that box shake. She was 12 feet tall, covered in scales that looked like living crystal. Her 6 eyes swept across the room, each one a different color, each one seeming to see everything and everyone at once. She wore no crown, but she did not need one. Power radiated from her like heat from a star. When she opened her mouth, her voice filled the hall without any technology to help it. The sound vibrated through the floor, through the walls, through Daniel's bones. "I am Vithari," she said, "and I have come to demand what is owed to my people." No one moved. No one spoke. The remaining delegates stood frozen, their eyes fixed on the floor, afraid to meet the Queen's gaze. Daniel took a slow breath and waited to hear what she would say next. Queen Vithari moved through the assembly hall like a storm given form. Her guards followed behind her, each one 8 feet tall and carrying weapons that hummed with energy. But it was the Queen herself who drew every eye. She walked past the frozen delegates without looking at them, her attention fixed on the central platform where High Counselor Dran stood. "Counselor," she said, and her voice made the windows shake. "I trust you received my message." Dran bowed so low that his nose nearly touched the floor. "We did, Your Majesty. The Assembly is honored by your presence." Honor. The Queen made a sound that might have been a laugh. "I did not come here for honor. I came here because my people are dying." A ripple of shock went through the remaining delegates. Daniel watched carefully from his position near the back of the hall. The Queen's words had been angry, but there was something else beneath that anger. Something that sounded almost like pain. "The Solani Empire is the most powerful force in the known galaxy," Dran said carefully. "Surely there is nothing that could threaten your people." Vithari turned her 6 eyes toward him, and Dran took a step backward without seeming to realize he had moved. "You think power protects us from everything? You think our ships can fight the universe itself?" She raised one clawed hand, and a hologram appeared in the air above her. It showed a star system that Daniel did not recognize. At the center was a planet covered in purple and silver, beautiful and strange. "This is Zolar Prime," the Queen said. "The homeworld of my people. We have lived there for 10,000 years. We built our empire from that world. We raised our children under its 3 moons." The hologram changed. The planet was still there, but now it was surrounded by a cloud of red and orange energy. The cloud was growing, spreading toward the planet like fire consuming dry wood. 50 cycles ago, a cosmic radiation storm entered our system. We do not know where it came from. We cannot stop it. We cannot slow it. In 50 more cycles, perhaps less, it will reach our planet. Every living thing on Zolar Prime will die. The hall was silent. Daniel felt Katie's hand grip his arm more tightly. We have tried everything, Vathari continued. Our scientists have worked without rest. Our priests have prayed to gods that stopped answering long ago. Nothing has worked. The storm cannot be stopped. Our only choice is to leave. She waved her hand, and the hologram changed again. Now it showed a different planet, one with blue oceans and green forests. Daniel recognized it from the briefing documents he had read before the summit. This is Tavern 7, a world rich in the minerals and energy sources my people need to survive. It has natural shields against cosmic radiation. If we can colonize this world, the Zolani will live. If we cannot, she paused, and for just a moment, her voice seemed less steady. If we cannot, then my people will die. All of them. 4 billion souls gone forever. High Counselor Dran looked uncomfortable. Your Majesty, Tavern 7 is a contested world. 3 different species have filed claims for colonization rights. The Assembly has been debating the matter for 20 cycles. Then stop debating, Vathari said, and now her voice was rising again. Give us the planet. We will pay whatever price you ask. We will sign whatever treaties you require. But we must have Tavern 7. It is not that simple, Dran said. The other claimants have legal rights. If we give the planet to the Zolani, they will protest. There could be conflicts. Perhaps even war. War? The Queen stepped closer to him, and Dran stumbled backward. You worry about war when my children are facing extinction. When 4 billion young ones who have never hurt anyone are waiting to die. Her voice had risen to a roar. The windows cracked. Several delegates fell to their knees, covering their ears. Daniel felt the sound pressing against him like a physical force, but he stood his ground. Answer me, Vathari demanded. Will this assembly help my people, or will you hide behind your laws and your procedures while my children burn? No one spoke. The alien delegates looked at the floor, at the walls, at anything except the Queen. Even Dran, who had led the assembly for 30 cycles, stood frozen with his mouth open and no words coming out. I see. The Queen's voice dropped. But somehow that was more frightening than her shouting. You are too afraid to speak. Too afraid to even look at me. So this is the Great Galactic Assembly. A collection of cowards who cannot answer a simple question. She turned slowly, her 6 eyes scanning the hall. Is there no one here with the courage to address me? No one who will tell me to my face whether my people will live or die. Daniel felt something shift inside his chest. The small box where he kept his fear was still shaking, but there was something else there too. Something that would not let him stay silent. Katie saw him move before he took his first step. Daniel, no, she whispered. She will kill you. Maybe, Daniel said quietly. But someone has to answer her. He stepped forward, his footsteps echoing in the silent hall. Every eye turned to him. The alien delegates stared with a mixture of horror and disbelief. Commander Hulk started to move toward him, but Daniel held up a hand to stop him. The Queen noticed him. Her 6 eyes focused on him, and Daniel felt like he was standing in front of a fire that could consume him in an instant. What is this? She asked. What species dares to approach me when all others flee? Daniel stopped 20 feet from her. He kept his hands at his sides, open and empty. My name is Daniel Carter, he said. I am human. The Queen studied him. Human. I have heard of your kind. Small creatures from a small planet. You have been among the stars for less than 100 cycles. 80 years, Daniel said. We are very new here. And yet you step forward when older and more powerful species hide. She tilted her massive head. Are you brave, human? Or simply too foolish to know fear? I am afraid, Daniel admitted. But you asked a question, and no one was answering. That did not seem right. For a long moment, the queen said nothing. Then she leaned closer, and Daniel could see the ancient wisdom and terrible pain in her many-colored eyes. Then answer me, small human. Tell me what you think I should hear. Daniel took a breath. This was the moment that would decide whether he lived or died. But he had not come here to lie or to flatter. He had come here to speak the truth. I heard your question, he said. But I also heard what you did not say. You are not just angry, Your Majesty. You are afraid. You are afraid for your children. The hall went completely still. Even the air seemed to stop moving. The queen's eyes flashed with something that might have been rage. You dare speak of fear to me? I am Vathari. I have destroyed fleets. I have conquered empires. I do not know fear. Everyone knows fear, Daniel said quietly. Especially those who love someone. Especially those who might lose them. The queen raised one massive hand, and Daniel saw the claws at the end of her fingers, each one as long as his forearm. I should kill you for your words, she said. You could, Daniel agreed. But then you still would not have an answer, and your children would still be in danger. The hand stayed raised for a long moment. Then, slowly, it lowered. You are strange human, the queen said. Very strange indeed. I have been told that before, Daniel said. Now, Your Majesty, shall we talk about how to save your people? The silence in the assembly hall lasted for what felt like hours. Daniel stood before the queen, waiting for her response. His heart was beating so fast that he could feel it in his throat, but he kept his face calm and his breathing steady. He had learned long ago that showing fear only made difficult situations worse. Queen Vathari stared at him with all 6 of her eyes. Each eye was a different color, and each one seemed to be studying a different part of him. He wondered what she saw. A small human in a simple uniform. A creature whose entire species had been traveling among the stars for less than a single Zolani lifetime. You wish to talk, she said finally. Very well, talk. Daniel nodded slowly. First, I need to understand the full situation. You said 4 billion of your people are at risk. How many of those are children? The queen's expression shifted. It was small change, barely visible, but Daniel had spent years learning to read faces during his time as a medic. He knew what pain looked like, even when someone was trying to hide it. 4 billion is the number of our young ones, Vathari said. The ones who have not yet reached their first century. The total population of Zola Prime is nearly 12 billion. And the adults? Can they not survive the radiation storm? We can survive longer than the children, the queen admitted. Our scales become harder as we age. They offer some protection. But even the oldest among us would die within 200 cycles of exposure. Our world is ending, human. Slowly, painfully, it is ending. Daniel processed this information. Behind him, he could hear the other delegates whispering. He caught a few words in languages he did not understand, but the tone was clear. They were shocked that he was still alive. They were more shocked that the queen was actually talking to him. The planet you want, Tavern 7, Daniel said. You mentioned that other species have claims to it. Who are they? High Counselor Dran finally found his voice. The Kelzer, the Moravi, and the Fentish all filed colonization requests. Each claim has legal standing under Assembly law. And how long has the Assembly been debating this? Daniel asked. 20 cycles, Dran said. 20 cycles. Daniel shook his head. In human time, that is about 18 years. You have been arguing about one planet for 18 years, while the Zilani have been facing extinction. We did not know about the radiation storm, Dran protested. The Zilani Empire shares nothing with outsiders. This is the first we have heard of their situation. Daniel looked back at the Queen. Is that true? You never asked for help before? Bathory's massive hands curled into fists. The Zilani do not ask for help. We solve our own problems. We always have. Until now, Daniel said gently. The Queen's eyes flashed with anger, but then the fire in them faded. Until now, she agreed quietly. We tried everything else first. We spent 30 cycles trying to fix this ourselves. We failed. There is no shame in asking for help, Daniel said. Every species needs help sometimes. Humans certainly have. We nearly destroyed ourselves a dozen times before we learned to work together. Your kind is young. You do not understand. The Zilani have been the greatest power in this region of space for thousands of years. We have never needed anyone. We have never been weak. Daniel took a careful step closer. One of the Queen's guards moved forward, but Bathory raised a hand to stop him. I was a medic in human wars, Daniel said. Do you know what that means? You healed wounded soldiers, Bathory said. Yes, and I also sat with dying soldiers. I held their hands while they took their last breaths. I listened to their final words. Daniel paused, remembering faces he would never forget. I once held an enemy soldier as he died. A man who had been trying to kill me just hours before. Do you know what he said? The Queen did not answer, but her eyes were fixed on him. He asked me to tell his family that he was sorry. He had a daughter, just 3 years old. He had left her to fight in a war, and now he would never see her again. Daniel's voice was steady, but there was weight behind his words. In that moment, he was not my enemy. He was just a father who loved his child. That was the day I learned that everyone, no matter where they come from, has someone they love. Someone they would do anything to protect. Bathory was silent for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was different, softer, more tired. You think you understand me, human? I think I understand what it means to be afraid for someone you love, Daniel said. I think you came here ready to fight because you expected no one to listen. You expected them to see a monster and run away. They did run, Bathory said. Half the delegations fled when they heard I was coming. Yes, but I am still here. And I am listening. The Queen studied him again, but this time her gaze felt different. Less like a predator examining prey. More like someone meeting an equal for the first time. What do you suggest, human? The Assembly will not give us Tavern 7. The other species will fight before they give up their claims. And I cannot let my people die while politicians argue about laws. Daniel thought for a moment. What if you did not have to take the whole planet? What if you shared it? Shared? Bathory's voice held confusion. The Zilani do not share. Maybe it is time to start, Daniel said. Tavern 7 is a big world. Big enough for multiple colonies. What if the Zilani took part of it, and the other claimants took different parts? Everyone would get something. No one would have to lose everything. The other species would never agree, Bathory said. They fear us too much. They would think we were trying to trick them. Then we need someone they trust to help with the negotiations, Daniel said. Someone who is not part of any existing conflict. Someone new. The Queen's eyes narrowed. You mean humanity? We have no claim to Tavern 7. We have no history of war with any of the species involved. We are new enough that no one sees us as a threat. Daniel spread his hands. We could help build a bridge between you and the others. And what would humanity want in return? Daniel smiled slightly. Honestly, just the chance to help. My people have been through hard times. We know what it feels like to be refugees, to lose our homes, to watch our children suffer. We would not wish that on anyone, not even strangers from the far side of the galaxy. Queen Vathery was quiet for a long time. The entire hall waited, barely breathing. Finally, she spoke. You are either the wisest creature I have ever met, or the most foolish. I cannot decide which. Maybe both, Daniel said. Humans are complicated that way. The queen made a sound that might have been a laugh. It was a strange sound, deep and rumbling, and it made the floor vibrate beneath Daniel's feet. Very well, human. I will hear your proposal. But not here. Not in front of these cowards who would not even look at me. She gestured toward a door at the side of the hall. Come, we will speak privately. Daniel nodded and turned to Katie and Commander Halt. Katie looked terrified, but also proud. Halt just shook his head slowly, a small smile on his weathered face. Try not to start a war, Halt said quietly. I will do my best, Daniel replied. Then he followed the Queen of the Solani Empire through the door, into whatever came next. 6 months had passed since that day in the assembly hall. Daniel stood on a hilltop overlooking the growing colony of New Tavern, watching the sun sink toward the horizon. The sky turned purple and gold, colors he had never seen on Earth, colors that still amazed him every evening. Below him, the settlements spread out across the valley. Buildings of different designs sat side by side. The tall crystal towers of the Zolani rose next to the rounded domes of the Kelser. The underground structures of the Moravi could be seen as gentle hills, their entrances marked by glowing lights. And scattered among them all were the simple, practical buildings that humans had helped construct. It had not been easy. The first weeks had been filled with tension and suspicion. The Kelser had refused to share water sources with the Zolani. The Moravi had complained that the Fenish were too loud. Everyone had feared the Queen's guards, who patrolled the colony with weapons that could level mountains. But slowly, things had changed. Daniel had spent countless hours in meetings, listening to complaints and helping find solutions. He had learned the customs of each species, their fears and hopes and dreams. He had made mistakes and apologized for them. He had asked for help when he did not know what to do. And somewhere along the way, the different species had started to work together. Kelser engineers had helped the Zolani build radiation shields. Moravi farmers had shared their knowledge of underground growing techniques. Fenish musicians had performed songs that somehow made everyone feel a little less homesick. The sound of footsteps behind him made Daniel turn. Katie Lawson walked up the hill, a smile on her face. There you are, she said. I have been looking everywhere for you. Just watching the sunset, Daniel said. It is different every night. I never get tired of it. Katie stood beside him, looking out at the colony. The assembly sent another message. They want to know if you have thought about their offer. Daniel nodded. After the success of the Theron 7 negotiations, the Galactic Assembly had formally requested that humanity take a larger role in diplomatic mediation. They wanted humans to help resolve conflicts across the galaxy, to be the bridge between species that could not talk to each other. I am still thinking about it, Daniel said. It is a big responsibility, Katie agreed. But I think we could do it. I think we could help a lot of people. Before Daniel could respond, a shadow fell over them. He looked up to see a Zolani shuttle descending toward the hilltop. It landed softly in the grass, and the door opened to reveal Queen Vathery herself. She stepped out of the shuttle, and Daniel noticed that she looked different than she had 6 months ago. Her scale seemed brighter, less worn. Her movements were easier, less burdened by the weight of worry. Daniel Carter, she said. I hoped I would find you here, Your Majesty. Daniel bowed his head slightly. I did not expect the visit. I came for the inspection, the Queen said, and to speak with you. Katie excused herself quietly, giving them privacy. The Queen walked to stand beside Daniel, looking out at the colony below. My advisors told me I was foolish to listen to you, V3 said. They said I was weak for accepting help from humans. They said the other species would see it as an opportunity to attack us. What do you think now? Daniel asked. The Queen was silent for a moment. Then she pointed toward the colony, where a group of children were playing in an open field. Daniel could see young Zolani, their small bodies covered in soft scales that had not yet hardened. They were running and laughing with Kelser children and Moravi children, chasing each other in some game that needed no language to understand. I think the sound of my children laughing is worth more than all the victories I have ever won in battle, the Queen said. I think I have been a fool for 600 years, believing that strength meant being feared instead of being loved. Daniel smiled. You are not a fool, Your Majesty. You are a mother who loves her children. There is no greater strength than that. The Queen turned to look at him. I have sent a formal request to your government on Earth. I want human teachers to come to Zolani schools. I want my young ones to learn what you have taught me. What is that? That listening is more powerful than shouting. That kindness is not weakness. That even the oldest empires can learn new ways to be strong. Daniel felt a warmth in his chest that had nothing to do with the setting sun. I think Earth will agree to your request. We have a lot of teachers who would love the chance to help. Good. The Queen paused, then spoke more quietly. I have also asked that you be given the title of Friend of the Zolani. It is an honor we have not granted to any outsider in 3,000 years. Daniel blinked in surprise. I do not know what to say. Say nothing. You have earned it many times over. The Queen reached out and placed her large hand on his shoulder, gentle as always. You are a strange creature, Daniel Carter, but you are also the best of what your species can be. I hope there are more like you among the stars. There are, Daniel said. Humans are not perfect. We have done terrible things to each other, but we keep trying to be better. That is what makes us who we are. Perhaps that is why you were able to help us, Ithri said, because you understand that making mistakes is not the end. What matters is what you do after. She released his shoulder and stepped back toward her shuttle. I must continue my inspection, but I wanted you to know that you have changed more than just the future of my people. You have changed me. Then, the change goes both ways, Daniel said. 6 months ago, I was just a former medic who happened to be in the right place at the right time. Now, I'm standing on a new world, watching children from different species play together. I have been changed too. The Queen nodded, something like affection in her 6 eyes. Then perhaps we have both learned the same lesson. That answering a call for help is never a mistake, even when it is frightening. Even when everyone else stays silent. She turned and walked back to her shuttle, but paused at the door. The galaxy is watching humanity now, Daniel Carter. They are watching to see what you will do next. Do not disappoint them. The shuttle rose into the sky and disappeared among the clouds. Daniel watched it go, then looked back at the colony below. Ships from a dozen species were arriving in the landing field, carrying supplies and new settlers. Lights were coming on in the buildings as darkness fell. Somewhere in the distance, he could hear children still laughing. Katie came back to stand beside him. What did she say? That the galaxy is watching us, Daniel said. That they want to see what humanity will do next. Katie smiled. And what are we going to do? Daniel looked at the stars appearing in the darkening sky. Somewhere out there were countless worlds filled with species he had never met. Conflicts he knew nothing about. Problems that seemed impossible to solve. We are going to keep answering, he said. Whenever someone calls out and no one else will respond, we are going to be the ones who step forward. That is what humans do. Katie took his hand, and together they watched as the last light faded from the sky. The colony glowed warm and bright below them. a promise of what was possible when different species chose to work together instead of fighting in a galaxy that had learned to fear the loudest voices. Humanity had found its power in something simpler. They had found it in the courage to listen, in the strength to answer, and in the hope that even the oldest enemies could become friends. And somewhere among the stars, a queen who had ruled through fear for 600 years was learning a new way to lead. Not through threats or violence, but through the gentle power of connection. It was a small beginning, Daniel thought. But all great changes started small. All they needed was someone willing to take the first step. The private chamber was smaller than Daniel had expected. It had no windows, just smooth metal walls and a table made from some kind of dark crystal. 2 chairs sat on one side of the table, clearly designed for smaller species. On the other side was a single seat large enough for the queen. Vathory dismissed her guards with a wave of her hand. They hesitated, looking at Daniel with suspicion, but the queen's word was law. They filed out of the room, leaving Daniel alone with the most powerful being in the known galaxy. Commander Halt had insisted on coming, but the queen had refused. "I will speak with this human alone," she had said. "If I wanted him dead, your presence would not stop me." Halt had not liked it, but he had no choice. Now Daniel stood in the chamber, watching as the queen settled into her massive chair. Up close, without the drama of the assembly hall, she looked different, tired, old. The crystal scales that covered her body seemed duller than they had before. "Sit," she said, gesturing to one of the smaller chairs. Daniel sat. The chair was too low, forcing him to look up at her like a child looking at a parent. He suspected that was intentional. "You surprised me, human," Vathory said. "I have faced warriors and kings and emperors. I have watched armies kneel before me, but I have never had anyone speak to me the way you did." "I meant no disrespect," Daniel said. "I know." She tilted her head, studying him with her many eyes. "That is what made it surprising. You were not trying to challenge me or impress me. You were simply trying to understand me. Understanding is the first step to solving any problem." Daniel said. The queen made a sound that might have been agreement. "Your proposal in the assembly hall. Sharing the planet. Do you truly believe it could work?" "I believe it is worth trying," Daniel said. "The alternative is war, and war would not save your children. Even if you won, even if you took Tavern 7 by force, how many of your young ones would die in the fighting?" Vathory closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them again, Daniel saw something he had not expected to see in a being so powerful: despair. "I have ruled my people for 600 years, she said. "I have watched our empire grow and then slowly crumble. We stopped having as many children. Our young ones became fewer with each generation. And now this radiation storm comes, and I cannot stop it. I cannot save them." "You are trying to save them," Daniel said gently. "That is why you came here. That is why you are talking to me, instead of simply destroying anyone who opposes you." I considered it. The queen's voice was flat. "When the assembly fell silent, when no one would answer me, I came very close to ordering my fleet to attack. I thought if they would not help us willingly, I would make them help us through fear. But you did not. No, because you stepped forward. Because a small human from a young species did what dozens of ancient and powerful delegates would not do. You answered me." Daniel leaned forward slightly. "Your Majesty, may I speak honestly?" "You have been speaking honestly since you opened your mouth. Why stop now?" "The other species fear you because you are powerful," Daniel said. "But power alone cannot save your people. You need allies. You need trading partners. You need friends." Vathory laughed, but it was a bitter sound. "The Zolani do not have friends. We have subjects and enemies. That is all we have ever had. Then, perhaps it is time to try something new." Daniel paused, choosing his next words carefully. I grew up on Earth, in a region that had been at war for generations. Families had been killing each other for so long that no one remembered why the fighting started. Everyone said peace was impossible. They said hatred was too deep, that the wounds would never heal. And what happened? Some people decided to try anyway. They sat down with their enemies and talked. Not about the past, but about the future. About what kind of world they wanted their children to live in. It took years. It was hard and painful, and many people did not want to forgive. But slowly, things changed. The Queen was silent, listening. My father was one of those people, Daniel continued. He lost his brother in the fighting. He had every reason to hate. But he chose to work for peace instead, because he wanted me to grow up in a world without war. And did you? Grow up without war? Daniel shook his head. No, the peace was not perfect. There were still conflicts, still violence. But it was better than before. And each generation made it a little better still. That is how change works. Slowly, one step at a time. Vathery sat in silence for a long moment. Then she leaned back in her chair, and something in her posture shifted. The tension in her massive shoulders seemed to ease slightly. You are asking me to trust strangers, she said. To share a world with species who fear and hate us. To believe that cooperation is possible when everything in my experience says otherwise. Yes, Daniel said simply. I am asking you to take a leap of faith. And what if we fall? Then, at least you will have tried. At least your children will know that their queen did everything possible to save them. Even things that seemed impossible. The queen studied him again. And this time Daniel thought he saw something different in her eyes. Not respect exactly, but something close to it. Your species is very strange, human. You are small and weak and fragile. Your lives are short. Your technology is primitive. And your history is filled with violence against your own kind. And yet here you sit telling me how to save my people. Sometimes outsiders can see things that those inside cannot, Daniel said. And sometimes weakness teaches lessons that strength never learns. What lessons? That you cannot do everything alone. That asking for help is not shameful. That even enemies can become friends if both sides are willing to try. Vathery was quiet again. Then she rose from her chair and walked to the wall of the chamber. She pressed her hand against the metal, and a section of it became transparent, revealing a view of the stars outside. I have lived for 600 years, she said, her back to Daniel. I have seen empires rise and fall. I have watched stars die and new ones be born. I thought I understood everything about the universe. She turned to face him. But I did not understand your kind. I did not expect anyone to answer me in that hall. I did not expect anyone to see past my anger to the fear beneath. And I certainly did not expect anyone to offer help without demanding something in return. Humanity wants the chance to prove that we belong among the stars, Daniel said. What better way than to help prevent a tragedy? The Queen nodded slowly. Very well. I will accept your proposal. Humanity will help negotiate a shared settlement of Theron 7. My people will work alongside the other species. Not as conquerors, but as neighbors. Daniel felt a wave of relief wash over him. But he kept his expression calm. There is one more thing. Name it. The negotiations will be difficult. The other species will be suspicious. They will need someone they trust to oversee the process, to make sure all sides are treated fairly. You are suggesting yourself. I am offering myself, Daniel corrected. If you are willing. The Queen walked closer to him, her massive form towering over his chair. Then, slowly, she extended one clawed hand toward him. The claws were retracted. The palm opened. Daniel stood and placed his small human hand in hers. Her grip was gentle, careful not to crush his fragile bones. "Then it is agreed," Queen Vathery said. "You will come to Tavern 7 as humanity's representative. You will help build a new world for my children." "I will do everything I can," Daniel promised. For the first time since she had entered the assembly hall, the Queen smiled. It was a strange sight, those crystal scales shifting around her mouth, those 6 eyes softening with something that looked almost like hope. "I believe you will, Daniel Carter. I believe you will."